Hi, everybody. Great to see you all on. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me just again set up this so I can see everybody. Hi to Bracha and Gita and Chana and Yocheved and the phone numbers that I see that are on. And hi to everybody who's going to be listening on the recording. But I'm so grateful to everybody for joining me in my journey towards Emunah Pshuta, towards a simple faith in Hashem. And as the Baal Shem Tov said, that it's that in order to come onto simple faith, we need a lot of sophistication. In our generation, simple faith is a lot more complicated than simple. But we're going to do our best, Be'ez Hashem, and try our hardest. Just want to share with you a beautiful anecdote, an inspiring anecdote about Reb Asher that I just recently heard from another Talmid of Reb Asher about on Purim. So one of the Chaverim, Reb Asher insisted on calling the Talmidim and those that surrounded him and came to learn from him. Great to see you too. He called them his Chaverim. They literally began as friends. That's how we always viewed them. Even when in later years, people much more began to gather around him as if it was a Rebbe, but he still persisted in calling everybody Chaverim rather than Hasidim. So one of the friends came in to get a bracha from Rav Asher on Purim, and he asked him for a promise that he would share with Rav Asher his Gan Eden, meaning that he would be imay b'mchitzase, that he would be together with him in the same place in Gan Eden. Rav Asher said to him that he should ask for something else. Ask for something else. Don't ask to be together with me in Gan Eden. But the friend said, it's Purim, and it says about Purim, Kol haposhet yadai, nice to him, like whoever asks for something on Purim, he's given it. And he insisted that Reb Asher, I want you to promise me that I will be together with him in Olam Haba. And Reb Asher said to him, what do you think? What do you think is waiting for me in Gan Eden? He said, what do you think we're going to find when we get there? I'm going to sit there with all the miskanim and all the broken-hearted people that I worked with them my whole life, that I went through the milchama with them, I went through the wars with them, I went through all of the brokenness and the heartache with them. I'm going to go with all, we're going to be sitting there together in Gan Eden with all the wounds that we worked and all the pain that we troubled together, all of the pain and all of the fears and all of the imaginary heartache that they went through, that we worked on together in order to take all of the trouble and the heartache of their lives and bring it up to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Reb Asher said to his friend, and you, what are you going to do there? You're going to be bored out of your mind. You didn't have anything to do with all of that, right? You didn't have anything to do with all of these chaverim, all of this avodah shebelev, all of this heartache that we went through in this world that we elevated to closest to Hashem. You don't have any part of that. You'll be bored, and it will be yisurim for you, more than boredom. It will be a gehinnom for you. There won't be Gan Eden. So, but if you davka want that, he said back to this chaver, if you davka want to be with me in my portion in Gan Eden, then I have one suggestion for you. Start now. Put yourself into this avodah and help the broken-hearted people. Listen to their suffering. Bear their suffering together with them. Try to lift them up. Take all of that suffering and pain and bring it up to the Rebbeinu Shalom and help them to attach through that to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And then, whether you're with me or not, you don't need to be with me. I have a havtacha that you'll be up in that place in Gan Eden. You don't need to be with me, but we'll be together because we will have been working in the same area. This was heard from. This was shared by the Admor Me Spinker Shlita. I thought that was such a beautiful instructive story to get us to understand a bit more about who Rav Asher Freund was, who we're learning about. And as the as Rav Avram Twersky, Rav Dr. Avram Twersky said, when we learn from a Sefer, we should imagine the Baal Sefer standing next to us. It will only work out well for us if we can imagine a little bit the demus, the personality of Reb Osher standing near us. Hi to everybody who's still coming in. Great to see you all. Hi, Linda. So lovely to see you. Thank you, everybody who's coming in to join me. It's such a pleasure to have these moments of swimming in the holy waters of Reb Osher. So this week, Parshas Pikude, which, as I mentioned in my email, we're coming up to Pesach. This is not a surprise. We're not surprised by Pesach coming up, even though somehow it feels like a surprise. We were just at Purim, weren't we? And now all of a sudden it feels like it's kind of all of a sudden. But yes, we're not surprised by this. So Reb Osher talks about the main trait that a leader in Klal Yisrael needs, and we're going to see how relevant it becomes to us in our positions as the leader of the team home. Team home is where we are. We are the leaders of team home. And we are the ones who are going to, Be'ez Hashem, be making it work over here. And Basha says it is savlanis, it is patience. Savlanis without any limits. Limitless and endless patience. That is the trait that a leader within Klal Yisrael needs to have. He needs to be graced with this in abundance. And not only does he need to bear the troubles that Klal Yisrael bring to him, the various different elements and all of the questions and all of the just the challenges. If we just talk about the patience to deal with the physical necessities, right? The shopping, the cooking, the cleaning, the preparations, the various different opinions, the physical setup demands a tremendous amount of patience. Not only that, the big and small things that are going to come up, the claims that come to us, whether they're right or wrong, that the whole population is going to be troubled with. And here we're talking about in our own homes. Again, Reb Asher is talking about the Klal Yisrael, and we're going to be taking this to the place of our own little area. That's where we're going to be focusing on. So all of the elements we have to do. We need a tremendous amount of patience just to wade through the mountains of details that we have to take care of. And part of the exhaustion about making Pesach is detail overwhelm. There's so much stuff and decision fatigue, right? We have to make decisions about so many minutiae that this in itself can create a sense of overload. But not only do we need to have patience when it comes to all of those things, but we also have to have patience with all of the claims and the shame and the blame that Klal Yisrael is going to throw upon their leaders. Something said today. One second, what's that? Let me just mute everybody by default because not everybody remembers that. Let me just figure out how to host everybody. 1 second. Okay, you can unmute. You know what? Sorry, let me just see. Yeah, everybody just, okay, thank you, everybody who just remembered to mute yourself. Go ahead, and if you want to say something or add something, you can always unmute yourself, but ideally everybody will be unmuting so that you can have other conversations in your room without us all listening to it. Okay, so we need to be prepared to have patience for the myriad blames and ridiculous kinds of claims that the populace, also known as our family, are going to aim at us without being surprised, without getting upset, without getting angry, but with a forgiving eye, judging favorably. And we should be prepared always to give a patient reply with whatever kinds of complaints they have, whether they are right or wrong. And even though we need to stand like a lion, again, we're talking about the leaders of Klal Yisrael, and we're talking about the leaders of Team Home, which is the women and mothers of of our people. Even though we need to be able to prepare to stand like a lioness, I'm talking about ourselves here, stand like a lioness on guard and not to allow any breaches in the wall and push off any attempts at um, damaging the spiritual character of the home in any way, and prevent any forces from coming up that might jeopardize our attachment to the Derech HaTorah in our homes. On the other hand, we need to be as soft as wax and apply all of the blistering comments and arrows that are going to be thrown towards us. And we should know how to swallow and not respond in kind. We must not respond in kind. And really, if we think about all of what is going on Erev Pesach in Team Home, okay, we have, in the best case, we have a lot of people who are prepared to help somewhat, okay? Let's say we have between, if it's just ourselves, then we don't really have what to worry about. We may have work, but we can decide what we want to do, what we don't want to do, and it's not so complicated. When we have to take into consideration other people, and we have a certain vision of where we want to go, and we have, on the one side, we have to manage with other people's lack of cooperation, and on the other side, we have to manage other people's claims against us. Those are the two basic categories of what we have to manage. They're not helping enough, and on the other side, they have claims against us. So our job is to have patience and patience and patience and more patience. The more patient we can be, the better it's going to be. And that's how we take on our role as leader. That's how we teach by example, by being patient. We need to, of course, receive whatever piskei din and whatever psakim we can get in order to make our lives easier. I have, on behalf of clients, received psakim for Ashkenazi families who need to cook what's the word? Kidney ice, beans and rice for children who are challenged or off the derech if they need to be able to do all kinds of things because the children have their own kinds of questions and they've received the psakim that they need to. Rebbitzin Tupik, who is she should live and be well. She is choshev a Rebbitzin here in Beitar. I just ran into a friend today. We had to take care of some business together. I ran into her in the post office so we could do some business. And while we're sitting there, she, over the course of the last few weeks, there have been, and in Beitar in the last week, we had many, many sirens. Many times we had to run into our shelters. And she lives one of these old buildings in the very, very beginning of Beitar, where she shares a shelter with Rebbitzin Tupik. And so she said she's spending a lot of time these days in the shelter with Rebbitzin Tupik, she's in her late 80s at this point, okay, a very elderly Rebbitzin who's been through a lot. And so she said during these times sitting in the shelter together, Rebbitzin Tupik likes to give over Torah and ideas. And she told everybody in the shelter recently, she said, you know, the only thing you really have to do is sweep. So if we keep that in mind, you know, it might make things a little bit more humorous, at least. It might just, you know, calm ourselves down a little bit. The only thing that we really have to do is sweep. So as long as we have the halacha behind us, anybody who needs encouragement in following such a psak, just download the psakim of Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg Zatzal, who made it one of his life missions every Nisan to save the shalom bayis and the family life of women and families all around the world by issuing psakim that many people may call makel, but lemaisa they save lives. If anybody wants to find his psak, I'm sure it's all around online. Many people have been sharing the halacha decisions of Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg Zatzal. But we don't. There's nowhere does it say that keeping a minhag that's based on a chumrah is more important than the shalom bayis, or than peace in the home, or than patience, or than raising a Torah family that loves keeping mitzvahs. Okay, nowhere is that more important. So we really have to keep our eye focused on the goal. If we want to be a leader in our homes, we have to keep our eye focused on the goal. And the goal is that children should come out of this home, that people should come out of this home who love Torah, who love mitzvahs, and who love doing the avodas Hashem. And if we keep our eye on the ball, then we can have patience. Most of the time, if we don't feel that they're helping enough, or we feel that their complaints are not in place, and those are, again, the two main categories of issues we're coming up against: not enough help and too many complaints. Mostly it's our own historical issues. Our dear friend Linda, who's here, who's shared so many times, I'm going to say in your name here because I love sharing what you said about, she puts on people's hat, on people's head, a little hat. She's nodding to agree with me that she has a little hat in her mind, a little imaginary hat that she puts on people's heads. If someone says something that may or may not, that may be hurtful or maybe is not quite in place, she reminds herself that really only 10% of what she's feeling is actually based in the reality of what this person is saying right now. And so much of our own personal reactions to not having enough help and to feeling overwhelmed and to taking it personally that they're giving us criticism is our old stuff. So much of it is our old stuff. So thank you for that beautiful visual of it, because it really does bring it home that when our children complain, when our children don't contribute enough, it's because we maybe feel unsupported in life in general, or we have felt unsupported in critical periods of our life, and we need more support. That's our job, to get ourselves more support. It's not our child's fault. And if we take personally the critique of our 9-year-old that they didn't like having our whatever we're serving for dinner today, or they're not happy about the fact of not being able to use their room while we're cleaning it, or whatever, and they're complaining, and maybe the complaint isn't the most respectful. If we feel that we're not getting the respect that we need, that's our need for respect. We need to go and figure out what we need to do about that. But it's not our child's fault. They need to see a leader. They need to see the lioness who's leading the pack, leading the home team to the safe haven of Seder night, where we become free people, and they want to watch us, and they're taking lessons. They're understanding. They take in everything, and they understand on their level. My little 3-year-old granddaughter, she is, I mean, they're all dolls, every one of them, but this particular one is hysterical in so many ways. So recently, my daughter gave this 3-year-old granddaughter of mine, she said, "Take this bag to Tati, he needs a bag." A bag to Tati? So she looked up at her mother and she said, "Tati's not feeling well? He's going to be sick? Like, why does he need a bag?" That's what she associated a bag with. No, Tati didn't need a bag because he wasn't feeling well. But they understand things on their own level. They take everything in and they remember everything. That bag means this, but they don't understand the background and the history. So whatever they see now, they begin to understand. If they see mommy is upset with them, they don't know how to reason. Oh, mommy is upset because she's feeling unsupported. No, they don't know that. They're gonna think Pesach is too stressful, or I'm too stressful. They don't understand that mommy has her own baggage that she needs to deal with. Okay. So Reb Osher goes a bit further. Imagine, he says, a gabbai of the base of a gabbai of shul who has been voted in by most of the membership of the shul. Okay, so again, his marshal that he brings is, we're going to take it to, imagine a mother in the home. Okay, because it's basically the same marshal that he's going to be bringing, but he's talking to men, and I'm talking to our community here. Okay, imagine the mother of a home, but here, imagine the gabbai of the shul. And he's carrying out his work faithfully. And one day, a 10-year-old boy from the community comes along to him and starts complaining and claiming with a chutzpah that the Gabbai of the shul now needs to give a financial reckoning for all that he has done with the money of the shul, because he doesn't think that Gabbai has been doing a good job. Okay, so we're going to, for our purposes, we're going to imagine that the mashal here is the 10-year-old comes to his mother, and he doesn't approve of the way the mummy's preparing Pesach. He doesn't approve of the way the mummy's running the kitchen. He doesn't approve of the halachas. Either she's too lenient or she's too strict. Whatever it is, he's coming with his claim to his mother. So this young man, he certainly doesn't understand anything about the reasoning and the why of what's going on. And he's going to certainly be judging unfavorably whatever the Gabbai has done. And he doesn't know anything, but still, of course, we wouldn't even imagine for a minute that the Gabbai of the shul owes this young boy a full financial reckoning of how he has spent the shul's money. And he owes this boy nothing in proving to him how correct he's been in all of his expenses, right? We certainly wouldn't expect that. And the same is true of the 10-year-old son who comes to his mommy and says, that's not the right way to do this. My Rav says you have to do this, so my Rav says you have to do that, or you're not allowed to do this. And if you do that, you're barely Jewish, and all of these different kinds of claims that children could come up. Or I'm not going to do like that. I'm definitely going to eat chametz, or I'm definitely going to eat kidney, so I don't care what you say. Whatever different kinds of things that the children are going to do. They want to play their music blaring at night. I remember for a certain stage in my life, Baruch Hashem, I was blessed with many teenagers. Pesach cleaning basically took place between 11 at night and 4 in the morning with very loud music, a tray of pizza, and bottles of Coca-Cola. That's how Pesach cleaning took place in my house. Baruch Hashem, those were the teenagers, and they helped a lot, but those were the trappings. That was what they needed to make sure that it happened. And Baruch Hashem, it worked. Baruch Hashem, it worked in the sense of they look forward to Pesach. They look forward to Pesach cleaning, and they feel that Pesach cleaning is what we call here a matzav. It's an exciting time that something's happening and they feel good about it. And it's one of those kind of family bonding elements that they enjoy and remember fondly. Okay, so Rabosha continues. So let's now go back to the parsha and see what did Moshe Rabbeinu do. Moshe, the Rav of Klal Yisrael, he called in our parsha, he called Klal Yisrael to give a truma, Parshas Truma. And now it's Parshas Pikude. Last week was Truma, and now Parshas Pikude. He called Klal Yisrael to give a truma, each one to the Mishkan. And when all of the work is completed and the Mishkan is being erected, up came a group of upstarts and clowns, late Sonim, and the Midrash actually explicitly calls them scoffers, late Sonim. And Moshe Rabbeinu, and they told Moshe Rabbeinu that they don't believe that he used the money properly, that he usurped the money, that he used it inappropriately, that maybe he gave favoritism, who know, all kinds of suspicions they aired against him, and that maybe that he took the money from them, took the money for himself. It's shocking that such a bunch of scoffers should rise up to suspect Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of all Klal Yisrael, so that Hashem himself chose Moshe Rabbeinu. And it says that the Medrash says about Moshe Rabbeinu, Nemba Bukol Beisi, that Moshe Rabbeinu was faithful in my whole house. Hashem opened up all of the heavens to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, here, you can walk through all of the doors, all of the rooms of heaven are open before you, Moshe Rabbeinu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu trusted Moshe Rabbeinu so much. But the scoffers of Klal Yisrael didn't trust him. This is also an instruction for us, for the Gabbai of the Shul, and for the lioness of Team Home, that if somebody is rising up against us, suspecting us in such a way when we know that we have been faithful, then it's more about them than about us. They're scoffers. They're just trying to find a fault. Anybody who is truly desiring the truth and truly wants to bring honor to Shem Hashem, how are they going to do? They're not going to rise up and create a public commotion and try and publicly embarrass the leader, right? They're going to privately say, what was going on here? It's not completely clear, or I wonder what happened here. Could you clarify for me? They're going to be very respectful in how they approach. Anybody who comes with a disrespectful approach, it says more about them than about the person they're talking to. So let's take this really to heart. If somebody is speaking really inappropriately and really disrespectfully, that's on them. It's not about us. But still, how does Moshe Rabbeinu respond? Okay. So Rav Asher says, really? Our hair should stand up on our hand, on end. Our hair should really stand up on end when we hear such a thing, that this is how they came up against Moshe Rabbeinu. But what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? And what was his response? Was he angry? Did he yell? Did he, stand and give a big mussar drasha to everybody about how we shouldn't do such a thing? Nope, he didn't do that at all. He sat down patiently and he went through all of the expenses, exactly how he had made the reckoning. He shared with these rebels how the accounts had been made and accounted for all the money. The money that was counted out for gold, he showed how it was spent for the gold. The money that was allotted for copper, he explained how it was used for the copper. As it says in the whole length of the Parsha, and the Torah itself attests to the truth of how Moshe Rabbeinu had allotted all of the accounting. This is the image of the leader in Klal Yisrael, that his patience stands strong in the face of big and small people, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are. And even a band of scoffing clowns who try to bring him down with their claims, with their pointless claims and their baseless claims, could not shake his patience. And this is the secret of his leadership. And as it says of our Gedolim, beautiful words that are fitting for the one who spoke them. Reb Asher himself was the picture of patience. One of the Chaverim was once in his home, and he had a very serious question of life and death. I believe that the story is told about his sister. His sister had to undergo a very complicated surgery, and many people came to Reb Asher to discuss surgeries, and even doctors and nurses, many medical professions and surgeons knew that whatever Reb Asher said, they knew that he had a special vision. And so this Chaver came to Reb Asher to discuss the surgery of his sister, and Reb Asher sat with him and discussed in detail what the doctors should do and what they shouldn't do, and all the details of the surgery they were working out in great detail. When they had it all together, this Chaver went to the side, and a young man who was not 100% came into Reb Asher to ask him a question. And Reb Asher welcomed him into his room, and this young man, who again was a little bit not fully there cognitively, said to Reb Asher, he said, "I've eaten and I feel full, but I want to eat some more. What should I do?" And instead of saying, "Well, you've eaten, you're full, that's enough," Reb Asher said, "You've eaten and you're full, and you want to eat some more. Where do you think that it's coming from that you want to eat some more? Maybe the food was very tasty." And he sat with him and he listened to him, and he went into all the different sides of why he still felt hungry and what would be the gain of continuing to eat if he still felt full. And he spoke with him and listened to him and plumbed the depths of this young man's question for over half an hour, until he was fully satisfied that he understood and was ready to make the decision not to eat some more, even though he still wanted to eat some more. And he left the room. And afterwards, this man who would originally ask the question, he said, "I always knew that Rebbe had such patience, but until I saw how he considered with the same level of patience and attention. This young man's question, which at the end of the day, you know, who knows what it actually helped? Would it maybe it would give him a little bit more strength to be able to make a similar decision for himself the next day? Maybe it would. For this young man's soul, it certainly gave a lot. But in the scheme of big questions, big life or death questions, the questioner of the operation that his sister was going to undergo the next day, it seemed of lesser importance. He said, when I saw Rabbi Asher answering that question with that degree of patience, I understood the gadlus of my Rebbe. When we are entering into Pesach, we might say the big thing is Pesach, and the small things are the Narishkeit that the children are asking about, their stockings or their trousers, or they have a hole here, or they want a new hairpin, and we think that's Kleinkeit, is Narishkeit. I'm busy with Pesach, and you're bothering me with all of these little details of where you want to, what you want to do with this and that. Yes, some things do feel bigger to us, and some things are probably smaller in the scheme of things, and yet, just as I believe it was Rav Yisrael Salanta, he said that if a child is playing with his paper boat and it gets destroyed because it melted in the puddle, to him it's a heartache as if the Titanic went down. It's the same heartache as if a ship has sunk. And so to our children, or doesn't even have to be Dafka children, but those who maybe have a smaller mind, maybe their mind is not attuned to the bigger things, the deeper things that are happening in life. And their mind is, and we also have those moments when we're focused more on the small minutiae of life rather than the big meaning of it all. Who is to say what's more important at the end of the day? And just as Rav Asher was able to give his whole heart and soul to listen to this poor, cognitively under-functioning young man and gave him his full heart and soul and attention, to this in the same way that he was able to give to this life and death surgery. So may we have the vision of such a Rebbe, such a leader before us, so that we can be the leaders in our homes, and we can have patience, and we can understand that the patience with which I give to my child the answer and the attention to whatever is bothering them right now is of the same importance as whether I finish this cover today or not. And at the end of the day, my goal here is that we as Team Home enter into Pesach and bring in the Kedusha of the Yantif with Simcha and with Emunah. And the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to help us in every way. And as Rabbi Tupik reminded us, all we really have to do is sweep. Okay, let's keep in mind that all of the Hidurim and all of the additional chumras that we put on are all wonderful if everything else is in place. If we have simcha and we have menuchas and nefesh, then we can allow ourselves to take on more. But if the basic isn't there, if we don't have simcha and we don't have menuchas and nefesh, then what do we gain when we pile on piles of chumras that are just going to take us away from the Rebbeinu Shalom? They're not going to bring us closer. Ladies, anyone want to add, share? I'd love to hear feedback or questions or additional points that you would love to share with the community at this point. Anyone want to unmute and say something or add something or ask something? I love seeing your faces and names here. Hi.
I just want to say a huge thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Good to see you.
Something to look forward to. Take care. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Anybody else want to add or say something or share? Yeah, go ahead, Linda. Great. Unmute. Yeah.
Hi. I wanted to just share a couple of things that worked for me. A few years ago when I was at my son's house, and all of a sudden on a Sunday, his brother-in-law was coming with his new wife, and the house was a disaster. And my daughter-in-law says, okay, he's coming, but he's just going to have to see the mess. Because she was busy working upstairs on a conference, and my son works almost 7 days a week because he's a rabbi. And I got this idea all of a sudden, and I said to the kids, because they were very small, and they were like, I don't want to do that. And I got a timer, and I said, I'm going to time myself. So I put it on for a minute, and I did as much as I could, and then the thing rang, and they said, oh, I want to do that.
Ah, cute.
One at a time, because I only have one time. And I got the kids The house within 20 minutes was clutter-free, new tablecloth on. I mean, it was
Beautiful.
like fantastic. And one time when the timer stopped, they said, put it on again. And so that worked. I'm not saying it's going to work all the time, but that worked
Very
then.
cute.
And
Very cute.
I wanted, one of my friends has an expression when things are moving too slow, like, when you have a list like this and you just don't finish it. She says, okay, camels move slow. So she has this picture of camels and she says, move the camels. And that reminds her that it's just not gonna. And one other thing I'd like to share, so please.
Yeah.
I'm God willing, we plan to go to Israel for Pesach. And but my husband goes on and off not feeling well. I mean, we're getting on in years and he's almost 80. So all of a sudden I'm saying, well, what if we don't go to Israel? And I have to make Pesach. How can do I prepare? What don't I? And I could not sleep the other night. And it's the first time that happened in a long time. And I said, okay, plan. So I got up and I looked at my day and I took the course with you on planning time, blocks of time. And I blocked out my day. It was going to be, I had to do work for the house, paperwork, insurance stuff, Israel work, planning for Israel, and Pesach work. And I blocked it out in different colors. And I fell asleep. And that's what I did the next day. Now my closet, my pantry's ready for Pesach.
Wow.
If I have to do it, I might not. And I'm planning out a little each day so that if at the last minute, chas v'shalom, we can't make it, I have a plan in place.
Beautiful.
But
That's great.
I was really, if I didn't have the tools that you taught us, I was really ready to crack up, as they would say.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Baruch Hashem, I'm so grateful. Good for you that you put that into practice. We learned that years ago. So about years ago that was, right?
Well, sometimes things take a while to internalize.
Okay, good for you.
Never give up.
Wonderful. Great job. Okay, thank you, Linda, for sharing. Anybody else want to add or share something? I'm going to look in the chat and see if you had any questions in the chat for me. Let me see. I want to listen to the replay. Okay, great. Hi. Okay. All right. Well, if nothing else, thank you, everybody. Wonderful to see you all. I don't know whether everybody wants me to say your names or not, but I just want to say I see you all. I hear you. Thank you, everybody that's here from near and far, all new friends and old friends. And wishing everybody a successful week, a week that you go at the pace that works for you, where you're successful in your accomplishments, that you feel successful, and that Be'ez Hashem, you grow into the skin of being the leader of Team Home and the way that you need to be for whoever your team is. And Besimcha, Be'emunah, thank you so much for joining me.